Let's go ahead and start the meeting. Would you please join me in the pledge of allegiance and oath of silence?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there any reason for executive session?
I don't know if there was anything you were going to talk about our retirees continuing to pay the $30.
No.
Well, now you said you were going to bring it up since that didn't get into the other contracts.
I don't remember. I can't. Then yes, we need to go to the executive.
Will there be action taken, or can we do it at the end?
We can do it at the end.
Okay. Then we'll go into executive session after adjournment. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from January 8th?
Yes.
Do I hear a motion to approve it?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
A second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
Can I just have clarification on one thing? First line under the sheriff, Mr. Johnson was trained as the SRO.
Mm-hmm.
We hired one other person for that. How many SROs are we going to have? Or is this replacing that person?
Johnson was promoted to full-time, so he's no longer going to do that. So that's why they were saying that they'll need to train whoever replaces Johnson.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And we built it into the contract with the school district that should they use a full-time officer, we're still getting reimbursed at that higher rate for a full-time officer.
Okay.
So even if he were to serve as the SRO going forward, we would not lose any money.
Okay.
It just would not be cost effective for the school district.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No other questions?
Anything else?
So they don't have an SRO now?
I believe actually there is another part-time.
So they thought they had two trained.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah, there is an active SRO, and like I said, Deputy Johnson can be used as well. Any other questions? The motion is to approve the January 9th meeting minutes as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is full-time probation officer. Carl, would you like to present?
Well, I interviewed a number of individuals, 4 or 5 individuals, and the individual that I came to conclude was the most appropriate for it was Aaron Mockney from Russell, PA, currently working at Children and Youth, was working previously at juvenile probation, had about 14 years experience with juvenile probation. He just seemed head and shoulders above all the other applicants, and that's why I recommend the court that we hire him in that position. We're asking it to be paid at $15 an hour per the contract, and he would be eligible to begin working on February 5.
So you poach and marries people.
Yes, yes, I poach a lot of berries.
Is this a replacement?
Yes, this is when Fran was promoted, when Jess resigned,
Okay.
Fran was promoted her position, that left his position open, this fills that position.
Okay.
The request is to hire Aaron Mockney effective February 5th at a rate of $15 an hour per the union contract. It's a full-time position. Wages $31,200. Benefits $21,927 for a grand total of $53,127. May I hear a motion to make the hire?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
May I request a post?
I appreciate that.
So Carl, so this is Fran's position?
Yeah, this would be, it would not necessarily wouldn't be that's the same work that Fran was doing, it probably would be another one of the officers, because we'll make some changes in the duties as we look, he would be coming in and just filling that position up, yes.
Okay, so I guess because when we just had another discussion about the 42 to 48,
Right.
is this position?
That's Fran's new position.
That's Fran's deputy
chief.
As deputy chief.
But if he wouldn't have taken it, was he getting around this before?
Well, he'd be getting 30, I think it was 38, wasn't it? That was the,
There's more than that.
yeah,
He's
this year, and then it would go to 43.6 next.
That's the starting rate.
Yeah, which is,
Like Fran had
that's
been
the
here
starting
for
rate.
20 years
Okay.
plus years.
All right.
So actually, in 2018, your wages line item is going to be lower
Mhm.
than budgeted.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, first of all, you asked if you could go ahead and post that position. Any objections? Okay, go ahead. Salary increase due to additional duties. Mary or Keith, did you want to explain the Ronna Tipton?
I had one attached there that listed them. The biggest add-in is the fleet manager position. It's taking up roughly 27% of her time. And there, I don't have listed, I thought it was in here, what else she has added. Can you elaborate?
Well, part of this is just with the expansion of the autism, and then when we were looking at increasing some of her duties due to looking at like a deputy director position, but not having funding in the other programs to help assist with that. So giving, once Ronna, giving her a little bit more in, we were hoping to look at some more community collaboration programs, especially with the autism expansion, because it can be from birth to our elderly population, and what else is going to need to be done with the, if there's anybody in senior centers that might fall into that, but the youth really are teenagers that were not getting services and getting them hooked up. And I know we had part of the discussion at the CYS meetings and stuff, but with that expansion of that definition, earlier when children were diagnosed, they didn't have all the right tools to diagnose, and what the state's saying for them to come into this autism waiver, they have to have certain qualifications. And like one of our youth that's in transitions, they've actually had to do chart audits to go back and find what he was doing in school, what he was doing like in programs to qualify him for autism, to get him the services that he needs to help him function, and hopefully with that young man get him into a group home, because he is struggling living independently after coming out of the children's youth system. So just a lot more with that.
Hasn't the ID program itself seen an increase of some kind?
Yes.
I mean, and as far as like caseload and everything else. Ronna had talked after one of our like coffee meetings or whatever about the fleet management issue, and about how that's a pretty huge chunk of her.
And I can go reprint the page. I'm sorry, I thought I attached it when I sent this down. But
What's the position that Ronna has?
She's actually considered the deputy, well, not the deputy, but the associate director for intellectual or developmental disabilities. So that includes like all the intakes into the developmental disabilities program. She oversees the early intervention program, even though we have a supervisor for the caseworkers themselves. She is responsible for that, which we've seen increase, of course, with the needs of some of our kids that we're seeing. So
Do you think that this is the, appropriate position to put the fleet management in then?
and it's just one of those things that she took it over. She was the one that did the investigation after Kevin, so she kind of was aware of it. And it's just the time. We've done some things though that she's doing more of the paperwork now. We've the program people are starting to take over like their own vehicles to take them. Like she'll say, like the last round we had all those recalls, so taking them down to Midtown Motors. So like if it was designated to be a children and youth vehicle, the children and youth staff would. If it's the intake vehicle, intake's taking it. If it's the SC or early intervention, they're taking them down. So Ronna might schedule the appointments, but we put more of that onto the programs. That takes time to run.
Yeah.
Even if you take one down and back, you're not back. That's at least 40 minutes. Drop one off, pick one up, and then she's responsible. She has kept track of all the maintenance of those vehicles, and just the WEX cards, making sure that there's signatures so that we don't have somebody misusing gas cards in vehicles. So
I guess I'm thinking as you're going through that scenarios, would it be someone in fiscal able to do it? Because I guess this is basically a professional caseworker. Is she-
Rhonda?
Yeah.
What, her, by degree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So we're kind of like distracting her from.
But the thing is, at this point, she has it down to a science. Like, she knows which vehicle goes where. And I think to give it up right now, the part that bothers her is the running. That's what takes the time away from what she does.
Right.
It's just running of the vehicles. The paperwork, I think she has such a system of accountability and double signatures and, oversight with, I don't think she'd give it up.
So what's the other item here? Internal investigations. What's that?
That's something.
Right now, she's the only one certified to do investigations.
Well, she's not the only one she's our certification.
Sue used to be in.
Well, we have like John Kale, Stacy
I
Lane,
mean, for your clients?
for the clients.
Okay.
But Rana also, since she has that certification, when we do an internal investigation on the employee,
Okay.
she does it because she's a management level
Okay.
person.
Okay.
Because it's the same format that we use. You went through, Bill, didn't you do, I thought you did the online one. I know Keith has the information, and now that he's kind of settled down with the,
Summer, hopefully.
yeah.
How long has Roma taken over the fleet management? Has she-
Since Kevin Lundeen, so that was,
3 years ago.
Why at that time wasn't it taken over by fiscal?
well, Ron actually did the investigation at that time. It was the commissioners that asked for somebody who was outside of, I guess they had been seeing them, and so they wanted, completely new eyes on it. And since she'd already had this format down,
So what you're saying is during the Kevin Lundeen era, fiscal was managing this?
they were overseeing it, yeah. Kevin was in charge of all the vehicles and all the maintenance, and he would directly turn them into fiscal. Now we have a whole set of rules of, when you sign out a vehicle, when you take a vehicle home, you have to have it signed off on. Gas receipts are all signed, and then we went to the WEX system, so it's per vehicle. You have to use your employee ID number, and
Because I have to agree with Denny in that, this is a little out of her wheelhouse.
I think it's important to note that she does a phenomenal job at this,
I'm
and
sure
that
she
and
does.
that it's run incredibly tight, and it needs to be because there's a lot of vehicles and a lot of vehicle utilization, and especially considering the background of the situation, it's really important. I became more aware of this, like I said, after pulling Ron aside because I wanted to ask her a bunch of questions about fleet management and human services. And I kind of alluded to the idea that, well, why don't you take over fleet management for the county? And she laughed in my face and proceeded to basically state, like, this takes up an enormous amount of time of hers, and to be fair, it shows. Like the program is run very well. Their vehicles are well kept. They have good documentation. Their systems, flawless, and I can understand the interest in perhaps unloading it on someone else, but I have a feeling that what you would gain in her time, you'd lose in cost and potential, the hazard of like another situation where it's being abused.
And when she first took it on, Commissioner, Kevin was the one who was doing it, and when he resigned from the agency to go to Erie County, we were divvying up the things that he did. He says, oh, this is only like, 10% of my time. So Ron was like, oh, okay, well, now that her program was running pretty good, there weren't any major changes coming down from the state at that point, and she said that I'd take it on. Well, then when she started to take it on, that's when she discovered the misuse of vehicles that Kevin was doing, and her accounting system was much different than signing other people's names and signing people's names who weren't even working at our agency and all those other. So we have like a whole new system that was developed through our management team and policy committee.
So this isn't really an additional duty then?
No,
been
she's
doing
had
this.
it right.
So we can't really include that in an additional duty then.
Right. that was just one of the expansion of the autism program is probably one of the biggest, and the state, if you remember when they came out with it, they said we're going to include autism in the developmental disabilities program, and we had no parameters, we had no, like, what is it going to include, what are the standards that someone can enter, nothing. And so we're literally building the requirements for the program as we go. And with the individual that I just discussed, she actually called the state and they said, yeah, okay, get back to us on that. Keep looking. In the school district, even the records that they have aren't acceptable because it was done by a school psychologist that, just said, yeah, he has these autism tendencies. They didn't give him, because the autism spectrum diagnosis wasn't as defined as what it is now.
Any more questions for Mary?
I would just state that, in my experience, dealing with human services, Rhonda does a phenomenal job in all areas there, and that, aside from these expanded duties over the past few years, her value to that agency is pretty huge.
By the way, how did you reach the increase number?
It was Keith and
What was it based on?
Just what I guess I thought was fair, that, looking at the duty she had, what she was making, what we've added to it.
Any comparison with
The
other
comparison
companies?
with CCAP,
Okay.
it was kind of hard.
did you bring, like, you were going to look at what the other associate directors were making? Did you bring that?
I did not bring it down.
I think I've seen that before, though.
Are we including in our analysis of the wages, human services wages?
No.
Well, maybe we should.
We probably could. I don't know, I've always thought, for one thing, DHS being a joinder is maybe complicating the issue, but I've always kind of viewed it as, I don't know, an arm's length apart. But
I think it would be a good idea if we're going to do it with human services as well. Have their.
well, it's already in motion. We'll have to see what the increased cost would be to add more.
And actually, I don't know that it should be too hard for them to add it, just because there's been so much data done by the state and other things that we can forward to them.
I would like to see that.
Very well. Would one of you be willing to contact Nancy Hess and add it to her agenda?
Who's in control of this? You?
Who's in control of it, per se, the Commissioner's Office generally.
Pam, could you do that, please, on our behalf?
Okay, any further discussion? You wanted this to be effective today?
I left the date blank, that's up to the board. I don't know if you had an effective one.
No, but
Okay, I would entertain a motion to increase the salary of Rhonda Tipton to $60,976.50. This is full-time with benefits, non-union position. The additional funding needed from the county would equal $1,541. And whomever, if anyone wants to make that motion, I'd ask you to set the date.
I'd make a motion to make that adjustment effective immediately, or effective at whatever the current pay period is.
Okay,
today.
There you go.
very good. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Hearing motion in a second. Any further discussion?
I would like to wait until we do the analysis.
Is that a motion to table?
It would be my motion, yes.
Is there a second at the table? Hearing no second, the motion to table fails. All those in favor of approving the salary increase of Rhonda Tipton to $60,976.50, please state aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
We have Treasurer Munstard, Commissioner Eggleston, Commissioner Heffernan in favor, and Commissioner Morrison opposed. Motion carries. Next.
The list is included for Paula's of the assigned duties. Just a note, does not take her out of her current category. It is still a category 15 pay rate.
And some of this is done from her 2002, so this was an outdated comparison. The major changes since 2015 have been everything with CWIS, and that came out of all the changes to the, when the child abuse laws came out and they gave us the new computer system. So anything with CWIS and CAPS or additional duties, she was doing the contracting, the 40 prior. The PA9 is a fiscal function. That's just the, when we do a contract, that gets attached to what the contract amount is. That's completed by fiscal. She just attaches it. So those are just the additional duties. Keith's actually been working on this one, since October?
About that, yeah.
These are all additional duties to her normal job.
When it was updated in 2015. There were, I don't know why they included this whole list, but some of the stuff she was doing prior. So anything with CWIS or CAPS were the new things that were added when the changes came out because of the Sandusky rules. So.
You help me out with CWIS and what's CAPS?
CAPS is the child accounting program. They're both state systems that are it's all data driven, and the data has to be accurate. That's part of what we get with our funding. CWIS it goes right into Harrisburg. They use that, it's the Child Welfare Information System.
Okay.
And when they do abuses, everything comes in online. So all our abuse investigations. So, Paula's the one that's responsible for the demographics. Sometimes we get ones from Philadelphia. Sometimes they duplicate them. Her role is to go in as the administrator to change that information and make those corrections so that the information is correct.
So these are both state systems?
Yes.
This is a union position.
Yes. And actually, the union is the one that approached us.
Mhm.
They've brought it up at a couple of meetings, discussed. They actually brought up two positions. Was this one, and I think it was October. They went to Keith for this one, and Kim Carlson, who is actually our quality assurance person. That her duties are doing more than just quality assurance. She's doing the training and supervision of some of the cases because of the training that she does.
That's working through the state with that.
Yeah, that one had to go through the state just because it's not we have the complement to fund it through Children and Youth, but because of needs based, and they're okay with changing it into a supervisory position just because of the duties of the position, which that one has changed a lot. Paula's, the funding for her, the wage for this position hasn't increased as the technology has. I guess and if anything, if a caseworker loses something, it's her responsibility to go in and find if they put in a service plan that they can't find. She has to go in the database and find it, and hopefully it's not gone forever.
Paperwork's increased dramatically
For
through
the
the
caseworkers.
reporting data.
Yeah, and that goes back to, that's why we're giving our workers the tablets. Just because they have to have electronic signatures now and with the families.
So the assessment that Mrs. Hess is doing, that does not include union?
It does not include any union.
And our union negotiations on the union that Paula is part of would be next year.
July. Well, we'll probably start in April or May, the new contract. And again, they approached us back in, I think it might have even been before October, but I think they went to Keith in October, the union did.
And this doesn't change her grade category or anything. That's kind of pre-approved by the state.
And it's within our merit base. Like the salary range is within our merit base that the state has approved.
That was my question. But this basically stays within the range. The
Yes.
category.
Yes.
Okay, any more questions for presenters?
So, just help me out. You had mentioned, and I realized from prior discussions, the whole increase in regulations with the Jerry Sandusky thing. When did that go into place for you?
Let's see, you
2
guys.
years ago.
Yeah, and it was between July 1 and then this is a system too, because the state, like, I'm sure we're gonna see something with substance abuse parents now, that there is like a categorical where we can, but they'll create a new tab. So when they create a new tab in the state system, it goes back to everything that we've done for the last 2 years, and we'll get errors, and what they call them are their data books that come in, and we have to go back through them and correct them. Well, hopefully they're not going to do that, because some of them we can remember if there was drugs involved, but from 3 years ago, we're not going to be able to say for sure. But those are the types of things that Paula deals with. And Paula is very meticulous about the system. So if one of the supervisor comes back in their data book that they have an error, she's going to be on them in their office, working with them to clear that.
Okay.
And she's actually been asked by the state to test the system. So when they do test runs, like of these different programs and how it affects, they call her to sit on the testing. She doesn't leave. I mean, she's in her office, but they'll send like different scenarios in a test database, and then how it would affect the CWIS system and what would change. And she's the one that says, well, it changes this category, it changes this, it changes, and how that affects it.
As a side question, generically for DHS in general, how do the percentages at the bottom, the federal, state, and county, how do those percentages get established?
It depends on the categorical that she's funded through.
Okay.
And we have to, actually, she's part of our IT. She's the only CYS IT. Now, Mark, who is through TechSolaire, which is our contract, there's some of CYS money that goes into to fund his contract, but she's the only CYS person that has technology. So setting up, the different tablets, and not setting them up since they're pretty mobile, but she assists with all that.
All right. Thank you.
Any more questions? I'd entertain a motion to approve the salary increase for Paula Craig effective today to $41,730. This is an additional county dollars, $3,057.
I make the motion or I'll make that motion.
Do you hear a second?
I would like to ask again that we table this and not consider any increases until after the union negotiations.
Do I hear a second to that table? Hearing none. Do I hear a second to the motion to approve the increase?
I'm between a rock and a hard place now. So she's been doing this, the union came and requested it. Keith, do you have any comment on, have you done any research on this versus?
It's really hard because this is one of the ones that there's not a lot out on CCAP to compare it with.
Okay.
So basically I just kind of looked at that range, and like I said, she still stays in category 15. It doesn't change her title. It doesn't have any effect with the state.
Do you know what the cap on that category?
That is the top.
So this is the top of the range. The 41,730 is the top of the range?
Yes.
And do you know where the 35 was?
I do not know what percentage that was.
It's just, I think it's low.
Low mid. I mean, I don't know exactly, if it was 42 or.
I'll second the motion to do the increase.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
I just add that this is a highly technical position with computer level knowledge, and a high degree of management too. So there are a lot of layers to this position that would be difficult to replace if needed.
So I have a question. Mary, do you expect, to me it's kind of like, are we opening the floodgates here?
Uh-huh.
So are we going to continue to see these now?
The thing with the frontline staff is, these are the ones that the union is bringing. So, the union might propose that when we do union negotiations, if there is an option there, that maybe they don't get a high as rate percentage or whatever, they might present that. I don't know. That was one of the things they talked about by looking at these positions.
Yeah, because that's my concern is, are we just going to, every meeting going to see more of these? Now that, has the union approached you?
I think there's one more in the pipeline, yes.
Just Kim. Was there someone else?
No, and that,
Oh, Annette, yeah, but Annette was one that when we were looking at, and part of that, Annette came out was, she went from part-time to was this one, yeah. The union has approached, but these are ones the union's bringing up prior to negotiations. You may see more with, now that Keith's here, they see him as a newbie and, they might think that he, I know that Rana approached him with the concerns.
Paula was the one the union brought up, right?
Correct, yeah. And, and I had the discussion with them too. You were taking a union, you're going to be, Kim is a union position, and they're willing to give up a union position into a supervisor. And they did advocate for Paula too, because she does help, the caseworkers.
I hate to cut the debate short, but we are late for our work session. Any further last questions? And the motion is to increase Paula Craig's salary to $41,730 full-time with benefits, union position. Additional cost to county $3,057. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
One star, Commissioner Catherine Nagelson for, Commissioner Morrison against. Motion carries. Next.
next one is a promotion for Bev Ruhlman, taking the position formerly held by Tammy Shippey. We interviewed, I believe, 3 or 4 internal candidates, and she was by far the superior candidate.
Okay.
Is it a replacement?
Yes. Yeah, Tammy Shippey replaced Ruth Dennis, who retired.
Do we have an effective date?
That's probably going to be negotiated because she's in the front line position. So usually what we do in these positions is once they get the date established, they contact me. Well, we'll contact Keith and he'll let everybody know the official date.
Okay.
We just need approval so that we can offer her the position.
All right, do I hear a motion to hire Bev Rollman? The salary of $37,986. This is a full-time position with benefit union.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Noting that this is a revenue neutral move, I just wanted to note that.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
And we can post.
You can post, yes.
Can I just go back on one? Did we have a date on Paula Craig?
It was immediate.
It was immediate today.
Thank you.
Dale Pearson.
Dale has resigned her full-time position to return to school, but she has agreed to come in on Mondays and Fridays to keep up with the caseload a little bit and to help train a new person.
Okay, very good. Questions?
I'll make a motion to approve Dale Pearson at the rate that's been offered in a part-time status until the position is completely full.
Okay, and that salary is $15.57 an hour, part-time, effective today.
119?
Actually, what?
Yeah, she came in on Friday.
Okay, last Friday.
I'll second that, noting that there's 0 county dollars per hour going to this position.
Any further discussion? Motion to hire Dale Pearson. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next meeting is set for February 12th, 2018 here. I will not be at that meeting in person, so Commissioner Morrison, would you please run that meeting? At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn. Thank you.